Welcome to De-Stress Your Business, the podcast where we show you how to get incredible results in your business without constant stress. I'm Alexis Kingsbury, a serial entrepreneur and founder at AirManual. Today, we have a phenomenal guest, Marianne Page. Now, Marianne is an award-winning leader. She's a best-selling author, and she's a developer of high-performing teams. Previously, in her 27-year career with McDonald's, during which she developed over 14,000 managers and franchisees, it's equipped her with an unparalleled understanding of how to create systems for business success. And so in this episode, we're going to explore how to simplify and systemize your business to scale effectively. And we'll address the common objections and people challenges around systemization. So if you've ever dreamed of having a business operation that functions like clockwork, even without your direct involvement, this episode is for you. Marianne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. And after that introduction, no pressure.
Well, let's start off with a bit of your background, because I've been aware of Marianne for many, many years. Always looked up to her as a mentor, given that my sort of background, a lot of my career is around processes and systemization. And I've always seen Marianne as a mentor, sort of a mentor and someone to look up to, because I have a huge amount of experience at McDonald's, and then turning that into a series of books and coaching and so on that she provides other organizations to kind of apply similar principles. So Marianne, could you share a little bit about your journey from being McDonald's and being a senior manager and all the way through that to becoming a renowned business mentor?
Yeah, it's always interesting when I think back to the McDonald's career, because when I first joined it, my mother in particular wouldn't tell anybody who I worked for, kept referring to it as a glorified fish and chip shop, and it was only when I sort of moved up the ladder, so to speak, and started working in the training department, which is where I got to train the managers and franchisees the most, and then onwards into running a directorate of four departments. Finally it was all right, an okay place to work. I absolutely loved my career with McDonald's. Mostly because, and this was something I was taught very early on, McDonald's train you as a team member. They give you all of the skills you need to do your job well, and they develop you as a person. They challenge you, they push you out of your comfort zone. They get you to do things that you really question you can possibly do. And it's all just, we didn't talk about systems at McDonald's. I didn't even know about Lean Six Sigma,
Right.
or that I could have a black belt, until after I left, because it was all about just getting things done and getting things done in a very particular way. So when I left McDonald's, I was keen to have my own business, but actually I thought I was going to help people with customer service and their customer experience and making that streamlined and simplified, which is actually part of what I do now, but it's a part, it's not the thing.
Yeah.
And it was actually a mentor of mine who said, why aren't you helping businesses with systems and processes? That's what McDonald's are great at. I've never really thought of that. It's just the way things got done. So that's what led me down this route. And in terms of the books, I had always wanted to write a book. To be honest, I'd always wanted to write a crime thriller. So a book called Process to Profit wasn't quite what I had in mind, but it was still actually what launched the business, to be absolutely honest with you. Just getting what was in there down on paper just made all the difference in the world. So it was an amazing, I hate the overuse of the word journey, but it was an amazing journey with McDonald's, right from flipping burgers and shoveling fries, all the way through the various departments that I worked in and got to see the world. It was great. It was really good, really, really good.
That's amazing. It's interesting that you say that that they didn't really talk about it as being systems and process. Then it was just like how we get things done and the right way. Because it's interesting with businesses that we work with at AirManual, where often the business leaders will go, "Yeah, we need to sort out our processes. There's not enough consistency. It is chaos. It takes up all of the time." Da, da, da. And then there's this worry that the people in the business will be somehow against this kind of process attitude, that it will diminish the value that they provide, that they would prefer more freedom to do it the way that they felt. What did that feel like at McDonald's? As you say, they didn't even talk about systems and process particularly, and yet we all know that McDonald's operates in a very specific way to deliver a very consistent product incredibly efficiently and at a relative low cost. So how is that kind of balanced? What does that feel like for the people involved?
It as I say, because it wasn't talked about at all, the way it was done was you came in, you were trained in the one right way. So there is only one way to cook McDonald's French fries. It's the McDonald's way. Everybody does it that way. Nobody would dream of doing it any differently, any other way. So because that was set in stone, because there was back in the day an operations and training manual, and you went through the training step by step, that's the big difference, and that's where the likes of AirManual come in. It's about your training system. I have been into so many businesses. They bring out their process file. Often it is on paper not so much these days, but in a lever arch file, and they're blowing the dust off it, saying, "We spent months developing our processes, our one right way to do everything," and nobody follows it. It's because the systems that they're missing are their training system and their feedback system. And if you have a really consistent training system where everybody, you have your AirManual set up, you have all of your checklists for what every single task in your business looks like, then that's what people follow. And if it needs changing, then fine, we have a conversation and we update it. We make it more logical for today, because logic does change over time. But it's there. It's a consistent way of people learning how to do their job. What most people have is they have their folder of processes, or they have their Dropbox, full of processes. But when somebody joins the business, it's right, Kathy's going to show you how to do this. And then, oh, right, Kathy's not in today, so John will show you. Oh, why are you doing it that way? Well, Kathy showed me how to. Oh, no, that's not how you do it. And it becomes just Chinese whispers training. Whereas if you have captured your training, if you have built it into AirManual, then everybody gets taught in exactly the same way. And that's where consistency comes from. That's absolutely where McDonald's came from. McDonald's consistency came from, still comes from. So the training system and then the feedback system, having regular day-to-day feedback, obviously, but also formal feedback once a month, once a quarter. People talk about having an annual performance review. What about, a monthly how's it going chat, or a quarterly performance review? That's the sort of thing that they had in place that just made sure that nobody fell off the tracks. Nobody did things their own way. They were caught early and put back on track.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, as you say, it's that combination of, yes, you need your processes documented, but I love the way you describe it but they're missing two other systems there. One is your training system and one is your feedback system to make sure this is actually used. And I think also it gets to the nub of that key difference, like how at McDonald's are they able to be so process driven and yet it not be discussed as being process driven and so on. And therefore could even feel, like it loses the customer in it and whatever. Because I'm sure that at McDonald's they would say, no, it's we're customer driven or whatever. Like there's focus there, and yet they use processes to deliver it. I love the way that you describe it as it's about putting it in the training. It's how you teach people to do the thing,
Yeah.
and that you don't rely on just people, even experienced people, to
Yes.
say, "Oh yeah, well, this is how I do it." Instead, they would refer back to that training, and I appreciate that for businesses that start with nothing, it's hard to shift, right?
Yeah.
Because we talk about McDonald's, where every single member of staff that now works at McDonald's has gone through some form of the McDonald's training system
Yes.
kind of setup. Whereas there are businesses now where even if they set up their equivalent, they will have people in their business that have been working in it for many years, perhaps,
Yeah.
and doing it their particular way. And I think, I remember, I think that's when I was interviewed by Jonathan Jay. He asked me, like, he had this conversation with a few members of staff, and they're a bit resistant to
Yeah.
agreeing one way to do it. And as a result, he didn't make them. And so they never really kind of got off the
Oh
ground.
dear.
And I think the problem is, yeah, indeed, it's like, but I think that's not an uncommon situation, right? Is when
Yeah.
you look at your business and go, okay, I get it. I need to train my brand new people in the right way to do it, but the rest of the team aren't brand new. And how do like
Yeah.
when you work with businesses to kind of
Yeah.
solve these problems, what's your approach when you go into this,
Yeah.
and how's kind of that McDonald's experience kind of shape that thinking?
Yeah. It's always about involving the team, because there are always really good processes in the business already. They just haven't been captured. There are always really good people who do the job exactly as the business owner wants it to be done,
Love
but
that.
what they do hasn't been captured. And
Yeah.
that whole we don't want to have one right way. It's not about it's actually not about the individuals currently in the business. It's about who comes
Yeah.
next. It's about if I know how to do something and I'm the only person that knows how to do it, or if I do it completely differently to someone else, how do we train a
Like
new
that.
person to do it in a consistent way? And I think for me, it's getting those resistant people together and going, right, look, this is what we're trying to achieve. What we want is to make sure that every single process that we have is simple enough that people can understand it, they can follow it. It's not overly complicated, because we do tend to complicate things over time.
Yeah.
It's just the way we do it. That it's simple, that it's logical, that it would make sense to any stranger walking in off the street. When we go, why the hell do you do it that way? Are you not aware of this new piece of software? Or that it's logical and that it's repeatable, that everybody can follow this process because it is simple and logical. So getting the team together, explaining why we're trying to achieve this, explaining that, because a lot of the businesses, it's particularly the ones that you're sort of referring to, they start off small. Most of the businesses I work with are successful small businesses. So they started off small, like the business owner and a few really key people, and they have built a really successful business just on the back of their blood, sweat, and tears, and just everybody taking ownership and doing their bit.
Mm.
As new people come in, that's when it just starts to unravel, and the more people that come in, the more it unravels. So I can walk into a business at the minute that is, it could be doing several million in revenue. I go, how the hell did you get here? Because this is chaos. And they are, they're really good businesses with really good people in them, but they just haven't got that level of consistency. So the business owner is still running around spinning plates, spending way too much time in the business and not enough time working on it, which is, the good old E-Myth phrase that everybody always quotes at me. But it's really about involving the team. And we talk a lot about capturing how-to guides, capturing the one right way, capturing it as a how-to guide, capturing it as a how-to video, ideally, because it's quickest way to do it, and it's the most accessible for people to learn from. But getting the people who already do it really well to create the how-to. Don't say, right, from now on we're going to do it this way. It's no, what is the most simple, logical, repeatable way of doing it? Who already does it like that? Great, you capture that. And building, because there's something, I know everybody goes, oh my God, videos, I can't get in front of a camera. it's really not about getting in front of a camera.
Yeah.
You know this as well as I do. It's about screen recording. It's about capturing what you do and why you do it that way and why it's important to do it that way. And then when people can take ownership for creating a how-to guide, a how-to video, then they become the the police of that.
Yeah.
You're not doing it in our one right way. You start to generate that collective, right, this is our way of doing things. The other thing that it's really good to remember is when quite often I'll be asked, what about when somebody comes in from a different business and they go, we didn't used to do it like that at Travel Lodge, it's a hotel business. We didn't used to do it like that. Well, this is our way of doing it. And if they've got a good idea, great. Listen to the good idea and go, do you know what? Actually, I think we might need to adjust the way we do it. But otherwise, it's like we have our way of doing things. At McDonald's, nobody ever came in from Burger King and said, I don't think you should be cooking fries like that. It just wouldn't happen. Things wouldn't be changed for that.
Yeah, and it's an interesting balance, isn't it, between creating consistency and efficiency and people doing things the right way, and then looking for continuous improvement. Because as you say, that person coming across from Burger King might have a genuinely better way or more efficient way or whatever.
Not a chance. Honestly, come on.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I've eaten them both. So coming across from Wimpy then. So it's possible that someone comes with something new, or and it might not be an insight just from having done it differently somewhere. It might be new technologies become available, because particularly over the span of an organization like McDonald's, there are technologies that improve and make things possible. In recent years, we've seen huge changes to essentially the front of house of McDonald's with screens for ordering, so that actually ordering at the desk is rare. All these sorts of things. And so you want those to be able to be implemented. Absolutely. And one of my favorite things about having processes documented, and actually it's interesting you mentioned video, because I'm a big believer that although video can be a very fast way of getting something captured, it actually doesn't serve long term for the business as using it as that method. Because of course, if I want to make tweaks to it, that's a very painful thing to have to re-record the whole thing. And then what happens is you kind of create a ceiling of how significant or beneficial a change needs to be for it to be worth that additional effort, versus you're familiar with the way that we like to do things in checklists, where you can just make a little tweak regardless of what it is. But it's interesting, getting that balance right of how you support those changes versus have one way of doing things, I think is often a challenge for businesses. But and we've talked about another one, which is the kind of general resistance to documenting things. What are some of the common objections and people challenges and so on that you experience, or that your clients share, and how do you then kind of navigate that?
One of the biggest blocks is the language of systems. Even the word process. Actually, to be honest, I've said this many times. The word process, every time I say it, it just shrinks a little bit of my soul, because it's a boring word. Process. As soon as you say process, I used to say that I work with processes and systems, and it's like I'd said to people, "Oh, I'm an insurance salesperson," because you just see the shutters come down and they're desperately looking to get away and talk to somebody else. So the language of systems gets in the way. A lot of small businesses start looking at things like Lean and Six Sigma, and don't get me wrong, those are amazing tools, but they're rarely for the small business. They are sledgehammers to crack a nut. And you start talking in that sort of language, you immediately make this seem like something that we've got to do in addition to our day job. that's the biggest thing for me. It's not about doing things in addition to your day job. It's capturing what your day job is. Um, and, that's why we talk in terms of a how-to guide. We really very rarely say processes. It's only if somebody else talks in that terms that we talk in those terms. It's about capturing your how-to guides, building it into a training system, because systems only exist to make people's life easier. There is no other reason to have systems. They just exist to make people's life easier, whether that's your life, your team's life, your customer's life. That's what it's about. Getting that message across and going, all we want to do, let's build out a picture of our routines. Let's capture all of, let you capture all of your daily routines. You capture all of yours. Then we'll capture our weekly routines, and we'll just start and chip away. We'll capture a how-to guide, whether that's video, and we will do battle over the how-to videos at some later point. But if I just say, the thing for me with video is, it's about keeping it short. So I completely get where you're coming from in terms of, if you've got a process that takes half an hour, I would never go do a video for a half an hour process. I would break it down into the points on the checklist within AirManual, actually, and go, this is the little 2-minute video for this bit. This is the little 2-minute video for this bit. If you want to watch it all together, here it is. But actually it's broken down into little bite-sized chunks. But from a capture point of view, and especially, to be honest, the AI tools that are coming out now, my God, people won't even need to do this. But you're about to start a task, you press record on Loom or similar, and you say, right, this is X. I'm going to show you how to do it and tell you why I'm doing it that way. Then you simply do the task and talk through it as you're doing the task. Then when you finish, you press stop. That's why I love video, because what most people see as capturing processes is that step 1, step 2.
And
now you don't do that
big, right?
You don't do that in AirManual. You have checklists with key points, and then each point is built out. So it's that dread of having to write loads of documents of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I mean, I would hate it. So I don't blame team members for not wanting to do it that way. I do think that quite often it's the starting point that's needed. That's where I always go to. Well, I go 2 places. One is routines, and just getting your daily routines captured first. And for business owners, actually, it's those, oh my God, I wish somebody else could do this task. Why am I the only person who could do this task? Just capture it and then delegate it. And it's done. The other way that we get business owners and their key team to think of this is to actually map out their customer or their operational journey, step by tiny step, really getting down into the weeds, and then looking for what's currently working, what's already consistent, and what needs to change, what needs to be made more consistent, where there's an opportunity to cut out a step even. Because the danger of just going the routines way is that you could capture things that are actually irrelevant or just not needed anymore. So doing the operational customer journey map first and going, right, these are our opportunities to be more consistent. Let's work on those. Let's capture those, and then we can go back to our routines and see where we're at. And that's the way we work with our clients. And it's often the first time that a team have seen the whole journey in one place, because they're all down in the weeds doing their bit of it. So they get to see it in one place, but also they get to say, no, that's not how we do it. We do it like this. Really? Oh, the business owners often mystified by how things actually
Yeah,
get done.
that realization. Yeah, I've seen that too. It's quite interesting, isn't it? When you spot, or even that process. It's like, I thought someone was doing X. It's like,
Yes.
nope. It's like, oh well, that's scary then. Yeah,
Yeah. Or
indeed,
two people doing the exact same task. Oh, I'm doing
absolutely.
it. No, I do that.
No, I do that bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, indeed. Yeah, lots of, and in fact, we've both had various stories of where we've seen those sorts of examples. Talk us through an example of where you've worked with perhaps a specific business in a particular client in mind, where you've worked with them to kind of systemize and structure their operations, and what impact that has had on their business. Because our number one core value is like focus on impact. We always start with
Yeah,
what's
absolutely.
the outcome that we're going to get. And so for you, talk me through an example of where you've worked with an organization and what that meant for them
Yeah.
by being
Well,
by being.
the difficult actually to pick one from, yeah, but I'll try. Well, there are two different kinds of successful small businesses. There are the ones with a team, and then there are ones who use outsourced people and remote outsourced people at that. And there are great similarities, but also obviously small differences. With the people who come to us with a team, the business owner is almost invariably swamped. So they really are stressed. They really are working in the business every single day. They want to escape from it. They are a slave to their business. They are firefighting all the time, and it is usually a mix of two things. It is usually that they don't have one right way to do everything, which is a big chunk of what we help them to work on. But quite often also they don't have the right team around them. And for me, once you've got the right team around you, everything else in the business is easier. You don't get that defensive, oh no, we don't want processes. We've worked here for 11 years, and blah, blah. If you have a team around you who share your values, then we do everything as a team. We agree things. We deliver on goals together. It's we and us, not us and them, or me and them. So quite often we will look at the team and look at their hiring system and say, are you hiring people who share your values? If not, here are a number of tools that you can use to help you do that. But don't forget that you have not hired somebody until they have passed their probation. And the probation system is so crucial to making sure that you hire right first time. It's absolutely crucial. Having a system that says this is what somebody is going to learn in their first 30 days. Here within AirManual or other tools, here is what you are going to learn. You can take ownership for it. You are going to be taught one-to-one because that's really important, so you can ask questions. But this is what you're going to learn. At the end of that 30 days, asking the question or saying to them, okay, if I was making the decision whether you got to stay or go today, it would be a yes, because you've taken ownership for your training, you've lived our values, or no, and this is why, and being really direct with that feedback.
Right.
So a business's hiring system, again, one of those systems that doesn't really get talked about
Mm,
because, well, we just hire. We
yeah.
just put an advert on Indeed, and then somebody comes in, and then they're either right or wrong. But an awful lot of businesses have ended up with people they are settling for, and they are, it's the person who you take home with you at night and talk to your other half, and your other half knows them as well as you do. In my case, it's Brian. I know Brian so well. I think I've met him once. Brian is like the bane of my partner's life, and I hear about it all the time. Those people are the people that will question everything,
Mm,
who they make other team members' life a misery.
yeah.
So within to get back to your question, um, with the businesses that we work with, we look at who's in the team. We look at, and when you come in as an outsider, and you must have seen this so many times as well, you
Yeah.
come in as an outsider, you immediately see the people who don't fit, who just do not share values. And until you remove those people, it's actually really hard to get that level of consistency throughout your business. It's really hard to move forward as a team because you've constantly got this in your ear all the time that just is holding the whole team back. And the team are waiting for you to deal with them. That's the other thing as well. They're going, when is he, she going to sort them out? So getting the team right and then saying, okay, actually, it rarely happens team first, then it's got to be together. But then it's looking at the systems and going, okay, let's do a customer journey map, an operational journey map. Let's capture what's working brilliantly, what needs to change, and then let's start working and building your training system so that it's accessible, so that it works. That's the beauty of AirManual, is that it's a training system online that every team member can access. That it's not a it's not a Dropbox folder that nobody can be bothered to try and search through to find the thing that they need, the bit of training that they need. So they just muddle through and do things their own way. It gives clarity and accessibility to every team member. So the outcome for the business owner is, one, a team that they really enjoy working with, that is easy to work with, that there is nobody in it that they're settling for, and two, that there is their one right way to do everything, their business way to do everything in their business. And of course that continues to grow and develop and build over time. And of course there is continuous improvement. And that for me is where your planning system comes in, because McDonald's success, you talk about them staying ahead of the game and constantly moving to screens or whatever. It's because they have a planning system, their 3190 or 31Q they call it, 3190 I call it, but that looks at 3 years forward and goes, where do we want to be in 3 years in these specific focus areas? Okay, if we want to be there, what do we need to do in the next 12 months? Right, if we want to be there in the next 12 months, what do we need to be doing in this 90 days and the next and the next? And that's where continuous improvement comes from. Nice. So, the planning system, hiring system, training system, feedback system, all of that ultimately frees the business owner. That's the outcome. The outcome, it's not the only outcome. The other outcome is that you have team members who take ownership for their role, team members who feel confident because you train them in their role and you develop them as a person. So you keep pushing them out of their comfort zones. Those talented people who are too lacking in self-confidence to push themselves, taking them and pushing them on.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much, because I think, as you said, the way that you draw that out and say, you end up with the people, the right people that are driving the business forward. You end up with the one right way and the clarity on how things are done. You've got the structures, the systems that mean that you're taking the business forward and you're the business owner and so on. And I think that your point that you made around, actually, it's rarely that you do one and then do the other. Yeah. And in fact, arguably what you said earlier suggests that you can't do that. No. Because if I go right back to the example of externally, we come into a business and it's obvious. It's often obvious who shouldn't be in that business, who jars against other team members, who gets often mentioned as being a blocker or whatever. And yet, as you say, everyone's waiting for that person to be moved out of the business, and yet it doesn't happen. And one of the most common reasons I see for that is that the business owner or the leader above them is fearful of, if I lose this person out of the business, what knowledge do they take away? And of course, Absolutely. One of the characteristics of typically your worst fitting employees is that they tend to be very against documenting things, because they value, if I share the knowledge that's in my head, then they won't need me anymore, because that's very backwards looking in terms of the value that you add, right? You're not
Yeah,
thinking, what can
absolutely.
I add in future? But through my ideas and creativity, it's what value am I to them based on my knowledge, and which has only been built up just by being there. So it's
Yeah, yeah,
one, and that's one of the problems, right? So you've ended up with a business leader who goes, well, I can't get rid of them because I don't know what they do in detail. I don't know what will fall apart if I kick them out, and as a result, they hold back from
yes,
exiting them from the business. And the great irony, of course, is like you've got the same problem if they leave. And in my experience, with my own consulting business and other consultancies that I've worked with and so on, is that often you have those conversations over and over and over, and you're encouraging the business leader, like, you need to performance manage this and so on.
yeah,
And they'll kind of go, oh, yeah, I know, and I'm sort of doing it, but I'm a bit worried, right now's not a good time, whatever. And of course, the pressure builds up and then the person leaves, and then you've not done anything
yeah,
to kind of manage that exit. And of
yeah,
course, what I love is what you're describing is you kind of need to do both, because if you're establishing the one right way, if you're mapping out your operations, if you're mapping out your customer journey, you are massively reducing your risk of
yeah,
those people leaving,
yeah,
while simultaneously working out whether they're even the right fit.
yeah. Oh no, that is absolutely 100% true. It's we were always taught at McDonald's to replace ourselves in the business, because if you replaced yourself, you could move up, or you could take on a different opportunity, or it was always positioned as a positive thing, but it meant that whenever anybody left, the sand had covered their tracks before they'd left the building. Almost,
Yeah.
it was like, which is a really, it sounds really bad, but it's also a really good thing, because people do leave, and we shouldn't be afraid of people leaving. We shouldn't be holding them hostage, or having them hold us
Yeah.
hostage. In so many businesses, there is a need to hold on to people that really we should let go, and it's for exactly the some of it is exactly the reasons you said. Another reason, though, is that there's that feeling of, I failed because they don't want to be in my business
Mm.
anymore. Actually, no, they could be really happy somewhere else. They could fulfill their potential somewhere else, and that's okay.
Yeah.
McDonald's, particularly with crew members, they came, spent a couple of years while they were studying, or as they were, leaving school, and then they went off and did other things, and it was okay. They had that grounding in teamwork, and as long as you can look yourself in the mirror and go, I did my best. I gave them feedback that they needed. I gave them all the training and development they needed, and it just didn't work. Fine, it didn't work. As long as you have captured everything that they do, as long as that's there somewhere in AirManual, in some system
Some form,
that's a
yeah.
training system.
Agreed.
The other thing I want to say in terms of benefits, and outcome, is a blueprint. Whether that's a blueprint for scale, or a blueprint for franchising,
Nice.
or whatever you want to do, it's there. You can sell a business so much easier
Mm.
if you've captured everything that you do. If nobody is essential in the business, even though there are definitely skills that you would absolutely want to keep, but if you've got that blueprint, the world's your oyster. You can do what you want with it then.
Fantastic. I love that. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like, in terms of being able to solve your current day problems around
Yeah,
stress and being stuck in the business and so on, and then look to the future and be able to
yeah,
scale. It's a conversation I often have with business leaders, where I say one of the unexpected benefits of setting up like onboarding of staff, like in our case, we talk about how we've set up our onboarding of our team members. That means that I can get people up to speed and adding value in less than 5 working days, and
yeah,
yet it takes less than an hour of my time, which is
yeah,
awesome. But one of the benefits is that it completely changes my thinking around how I grow the business, because I don't fear suddenly having loads of clients,
yeah,
because I know that I can get
yeah.
people up and running and
Absolutely,
in those roles, and I know
absolutely.
what that role looks like, and
Yeah,
what the numbers need to look like, so that I need more of that role and so on. I think, as you say, for blueprinting purposes and scale. It's just really powerful. Now, unfortunately, we're running short on time, which is a shame because there's loads of more questions I could ask you, Marianne.
We could keep talking all day.
Indeed. But you spent more time at McDonald's than most. We're all very lucky that you then eventually did move on and that they gave you a lovely picture, which I believe is behind your left shoulder.
It is indeed.
You're complete with the McDonald's arches. But you did then move on. You've written some incredible books. You also provide services to business leaders. Where can people learn more from you, Marianne?
Yeah. Well, the best way to find out about what we do is to go onto my website, which is mariannepage.com. So that's fairly straightforward. And then we're on all the usual channels. Either me personally, Marianne Page, or Marianne Page Limited on Facebook and LinkedIn. We don't bother so much with Twitter these days, to be honest. But yeah, or you can just get in touch directly with me. My email address is me as in me at mariannepage.com. So I'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Love that, Marianne. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Your advice has been absolutely great, and it's been great working with you outside of this podcast as well. As I say, you really have been a mentor to me in terms of my career and what you've been doing. Love continuing to work with you, and thank you so much for sharing your insights today.
Thanks so much for having me on, Alexis. Really, really enjoyed it.
That's fantastic. Well, and for everyone listening, I hope you've got huge value out of today's session. In fact, I know that you have. For regular listeners, you already know that I run a weekly webinar on how to free up 15 hours per week and remove the constant stress of running a business whilst unlocking growth, in which we talk about some of the approaches, many of which relate to some of the topics that we've covered today about how do you get to a point that you can scale. You can find out more and register for the next one at airmanual.co/webinar. But otherwise, if you found today's discussion helpful and you think that other people would benefit from it too, please do share it on social media. We'd also really appreciate the feedback. Tag us in, let us know your favorite takeaway. Marianne would really, really appreciate
Absolutely.
that. So would I. Yeah, indeed. So please do that. But otherwise, Marianne, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom on systemizing and simplifying businesses.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Fantastic. And to all our listeners, until next time, have fun.